On my wedding day, my mother-in-law exposed me as a gold digger, then an amazing twist unveiled. Emily Walker stood at the altar, dressed in white, radiating a mix of joy and anxiety on what was meant to be the happiest day of her life. As the soft music played, she felt her heart pound against her ribs, a chaotic rhythm that betrayed her calm exterior. The crowd around her, friends and family who had supported her through years of painstaking struggle, seemed to pulse with love and encouragement. And there, at the other end, her fiancé Jake stood, a dazzling smile brightening his handsome features, the embodiment of hope and promise. But just as their sacred moment began, turmoil erupted. "Gold digger," interrupted a voice that cut through the atmosphere like a jagged knife. It was her mother-in-law, Patricia, a powerful businesswoman who towered over everyone with her icy demeanor. Emily's stomach dropped, her features freezing in shock, as whispers surged through the crowd like an electric shock. The facade of her happiness crumbled into shards of doubt, her years of dedication working tirelessly through school while caring for her family seemingly reduced to nothing. Did they all see her as Patricia described? The humiliation burned deep, igniting thoughts of fleeing from the altar, but the eyes of the crowd weighed heavy upon her. For a fleeting second, Emily's mind raced between defending herself and holding her ground, each emotion battling mercilessly. How could a woman who barely knew her judge her so harshly? Was she merely a reflection of her humble origins, forever shackled by them? Paralyzed by confusion and hurt, she felt her breath hitch, the tears brimming within an ocean of hurt. She wrestled against the urge to lash out, her entire being screaming for validation. Then, from the periphery of her consciousness emerged a friendly figure, Mr. Thompson, her high school mentor, the very person who had first ignited her passion for nursing. His kind eyes sparkled with encouragement, a lifeline in the chaos enveloping her. Encouragement momentarily anchored her, yet self-doubt loomed ever larger. Could she confront such an insidious accusation in front of their gathering without losing everything? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Gathering her breath, Emily resolved to embrace her narrative, her truth. The trials she had faced were not shameful, they were testaments of her resilience. As the wedding ceremony paused in limbo, memories flooded her. Countless nights spent studying while working 2 jobs, complaints from her younger siblings, her own sacrifices often unrecognized, were reminders of the fierce flames of determination that had shaped her. But just as clarity began to take shape amid the storm of chaos, a new worry tightened its grip on her throat. Her mother-in-law's scorn was a formidable force, and the echo of Patricia's accusation danced mockingly in her head. Doubt spiraled, would she ever escape the shadow of that judgment? With the stakes impossibly high, she prepared herself for the inevitable confrontation. The truth loomed ahead, but its revelation felt like navigating a minefield. One misstep could end everything. As the moment of reckoning approached, Emily's heart raced, not from excitement but from the suffocating weight of uncertainty. Could she truly shift the narrative, or would Patricia's anger extinguish her hard-won achievements forever? The tension thickened, leaving her breathless, as she stood at the precipice of a life-altering moment, wondering if her fight for recognition would birth a brighter future or merely echo her deepest fears. In a heartbeat, the world around Emily blurred. The soft notes of the wedding music distorted into a background hum, every face akin to a foggy silhouette. Patricia's words echoed relentlessly, haunting the edges of her consciousness. Each syllable seemed intent on shackling her to a past she had worked tirelessly to escape. Raising her chin, Emily chose defiance over despair. The warmth of the supportive gazes from her friends and family offered a fragile comfort. But could they truly understand the depth of her struggle? Did they see her failures as Patricia did? There was an unsettling knowledge that this moment would redefine her existence, but self-preservation stirred within her, urging her to speak her truth. "Excuse me, Patricia," Emily began, her voice trembling but resolute. Your words imply that I have taken from Jake without earning my place in his life. But I am not defined by wealth or privilege. I have clawed my way up from nothing, and I stand here, not as a gold digger, but as a woman who has fought for every opportunity. The crowd seemed to inhale collectively, faces shifting with intrigue and disbelief. For Emily, the air turned electric. Each heartbeat reverberated a sense of validation, sparking a fire within her. This was not merely a confrontation, it was her moment of clarity, a reclamation of her narrative. Patricia's expression hardened, her icy demeanor morphing into a venomous glare. You're delusional if you think you can convince them of your worth. My son deserves someone with status, not just aspirations. With a steely resolve, Emily pressed on. You think my worth is dictated by accolades or financial success, but I have more to offer than you can see. Is it not my compassion, my resilience, and my dedication that solidify a lifelong partnership? Or should I bend to your perceptions, losing myself in the process? The room swelled with whispers, a collective awakening to Emily's authenticity. It was a garment of courage she'd worn, boldly fragile, yet impenetrable. In that fleeting moment, doubt slipped away, replaced by a fierce determination to dismantle the judgments cast upon her. Each word was a declaration of independence from the unearned scrutiny she faced, and within her simmered the strength of countless battles fought silent and alone. Yet, as she gazed into the crowd, even the support from her loved ones was overshadowed by an unsettling reality. Reflection ignited an awareness: could this confrontation be the catalyst enabling her to shed the labels that had defined her for so long? Emily's heartbeat steadied as she recognized the fissures of change forming within her. Perhaps she was more than a victim of circumstance, maybe she could reshape her identity, not solely in response to others but through the lens of her own self-scrutiny and ambition. This revelation kindled a burning desire for growth, igniting a path she had previously only dared to dream about. And yet, doubt lingered. Could she truly rise above Patricia's venom and maintain her identity without morphing into an echo of the scorn directed at her? As she surveyed the crowd, a chill ran down her spine, her mother-in-law's relentless gaze hadn't wavered. Shadows of uncertainty loomed as the connection between Emily and Jake flickered like a candle in a storm. With this confrontation, she had opened a can of worms. Would Patricia's response push Jake away, or bind him closer to Emily? This dynamic shift ignited a painful truth she hadn't prepared for: she would have to fight not just for her dignity but for her relationship, too. Tomorrow would require not just the strength she had summoned, but a willingness to confront the very heart of her relationship with Jake. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but the flame of her newfound resolve sparked a whirling tornado of emotions she could no longer ignore. As the murmurs settled into silence, Emily realized she stood at a crossroads, illuminated by the very essence of self-discovery. It was now or never. With a pounding heart, she braced for what lay ahead. She would face the unyielding tension of family allegiance and love head-on. Jake? She uttered, anchoring her thoughts in hope. We need to talk. At that moment, the room felt smaller, yet the stakes had never been higher. Would their love withstand the unyielding pressure of family expectations, or was this the beginning of an end neither had anticipated? Emily stood frozen, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her like a storm cloud. She searched Jake's eyes for reassurance, but they were clouded, distant. The vibrant energy of the wedding had evaporated, replaced by a heavy tension that threatened to choke her hope. She could almost sense Patricia's satisfaction at the discord she had sown, her sharp voice lingering like an unwanted echo in Emily's mind. Meet me outside, Jake finally murmured, his tone barely above a whisper yet imbued with urgency. He turned sharply, leading the way through the clustered crowd still buzzing with the aftermath of Patricia's scathing remarks. As they stepped into the cool night, the moonlight cast a soft glow, illuminating the uncertainty painted across Jake's face. The garden was a silent witness to the emotions swirling between them, trees standing sentinel as if waiting for their exchange to unfold. You shouldn't have said anything, Jake said, frustration seeping into his voice. You know how she is. Why did you have to escalate it? Her pulse quickened, a mix of indignation and fear prickling at her skin. Escalate what? The truth? I won't stand by while she denigrates everything I've worked for. I deserve to be recognized for what I bring to your life, Jake, not as a shadow of your mother's expectations. He ran a hand through his hair, the familiar gesture revealing his stress. I want to defend you, but she is my mother. You can't just provoke her like that and expect there to be no fallout. And whose fallout is it going to be, hers or mine? She countered, bitterness slipping into her tone. I refuse to let her dictate my worth, Jake. You must see that it's about more than just us. It's about me becoming someone I am proud to be, someone who won't shrink under her scrutiny. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Emily studied Jake as he fought an internal battle. She wondered if he even realized the full extent of what she had said. This moment demanded clarity, yet he seemed caught in a web woven from familial obligation and love. Emily, he began, his eyes softening, I love you. But I also love my mother. Can we find a way to navigate this without conflict? The words struck Emily hard. She felt rooted to the spot, their implications weighing heavily on her. What did that love entail? Endless compromises? Would she always be a player on the edges of someone else's game? She recalled the battle she'd fought to embrace her identity, letting her roots seed her determination. She wasn't ready to sacrifice it all for the sake of keeping peace. Maybe the conflict is what we need, she said slowly, a revelation igniting. Perhaps only through confrontation can we bridge the divide between our worlds. I need to be honest with you about what I can tolerate. If I can't be my true self around your family, then what are we fighting for? Jake took a step back, shaking his head. You're making this sound so black and white. Because it is, she insisted, stepping forward, intent on making her point. You can't ask me to stand against someone who believes I am less than worthy. I have fought tooth and nail to become who I am today, and I won't let anyone drag me back into the shadows. A flicker of understanding passed over his face, igniting something in her that felt like newfound power. They needed to confront the family dynamics together, not as separate entities but as partners. Yet uncertainty lingered, a distant echo of what might be relinquished. Could Jake sink his journey with hers? Or would this clash for identity fracture them further? As they stood in the stillness, the footsteps of a distant wedding celebration faded into nothingness, leaving an emotional chasm wide enough to swallow both hope and despair. With the world around her receding, Emily understood she would have to dig even deeper into her resolve. Jake, she said, her voice steadier, I believe in us, but this is bigger than just our love. Are you ready to stand with me against your mother? The question hung palpable in the air, weighty with promise and precariousness. The moment stretched, signaling a turning point. Neither of them anticipated a test of their love that would demand more than just affection. Would Jake meet her challenge, or would their union buckle under the pressure? The stakes of their relationship had never been clearer, each second ticking closer to a pivotal response. The silence vibrated with the possibilities of what lay ahead. A voice inside Emily urged her to prepare for whatever might unfold next, because truth had its consequences, and with every revelation came the risk of exposure. Emily took a deep breath, steadying the whirlwind of emotions threatening to spiral out of control. Jake stood only a few feet away, his arms crossed defensively over his chest, every inch of him radiating uncertainty. She could hear the muted laughter from the wedding party fading into the night, juxtaposing sharply with the tension hanging between them. Emily, he finally said, the weight of his hesitation evident in his voice, I can't just dismiss my mother's feelings. You know how much she means to me. The words seethed beneath her skin. A blend of frustration and resolve propelled her forward. She wouldn't allow the conversation to circle back to familiar complaints rooted in self-preservation. Jake, she countered, her voice ringing with conviction that surprised even herself, this isn't just about Patricia's feelings anymore. It's about my feelings too. His brow furrowed deeper, confusion clouding his expression as if he was trying to decode her intentions. What are you saying? I'm saying that if your commitment to me is conditional on how your family perceives our relationship, then I can't be a part of this. I have sacrificed enough to conform to what others expect of me. A pause stretched between them, filled with unspoken hope and fear. Jake took a step closer, his expression softening. Are you saying you're willing to fight for us? For this relationship? Emily's heart raced. The notion of confrontation now felt less like a violent clash of wills and more like a necessary evolution of their union. Yes, but I need to know you're with me. Are you ready to face your mother? His response was slow, deliberate. I won't go against her entirely. I can't cut her out of my life, but I can talk to her. I can try to make her understand what I want. Yes, Emily affirmed, feeling the rush of a newfound possibility swelling inside her. And what you want is me. That's what we'll need to emphasize. But even as determination flickered within her, doubt slithered into her thoughts. Could Jake really bridge the vast divide between Patricia's expectations and her own aspirations? Just remember, I won't be silenced anymore. I need you to voice that, to support me. Your loyalty shouldn't feel like a choice between mother and partner. Jake's gaze pierced hers, searching for fragments of reassurance. So, what's our plan? His question hung in the air, brimming with both potential and risk. They had reached a critical juncture in their relationship, one that could shape the very trajectory of their future together. Emily thought of the potential fallout, her mother's words echoing in her mind, "Your worth isn't determined by anyone else." First, she began, contemplating the precarious strategy unfolding. Let me talk with Patricia. I need to confront her directly. And then we regroup. I'll lay my cards on the table, and we'll see how she reacts. Jake hesitated, indecision shadowing his features. Are you sure you want to confront her alone? I need to do this. Not just for us, but for me. The resolve in her voice was a sword, slicing doubt. The moment felt monumental, a declaration that she would no longer be defined by others' perceptions. Breathless, she pressed onward. I won't allow her perception to shape my identity. You'll be there to back me, but I need to lead this charge, to show her I'm not afraid. What if she doesn't respond well? I can't control how she reacts, Jake. The only thing I can do is be honest about who I am. He nodded slowly, the acceptance beginning to take root in his expression was as raw as the growing realization. With resolve brewing in her chest, Emily recognized that honesty required strength, perhaps the strength they both had yet to fully comprehend. But as their fates intertwined, each step forward felt precarious. The potential for chaos lingered just below the surface, like a dormant volcano awaiting the right moment to erupt. The night air felt electric, filled with the promise of a turning tide, yet Emily could not shake the feeling that the coming confrontation would define not just their relationship, but her very sense of self. The thought cemented her determination, she would have to be prepared for whatever response Patricia had in store. As they returned to the wedding, hand in hand but standing on the brink of a daunting precipice, Emily couldn't help but wonder, was she ready for the truth? Would she be able to navigate the tumultuous waters ahead with Jake by her side, or would the stakes prove too high? The faint echoes of laughter faded behind them, replaced by the gravity of their uncharted future. Emily stepped away from the swirling festivities, her heart pounding with anticipation. The vibrant atmosphere felt like a stark contrast to the heavy burden settling in her chest. She glanced at Jake, who was still caught between support and anxiety, a look of concern etched on his face. She could sense his internal struggle mirroring her own. Was he ready to take this leap into the unknown? Determination wrapped around her thoughts like a shield as she reminded herself of her purpose, to reclaim her narrative, to assert her identity in the face of adversity. This was not merely about Jake's relationship with his mother, it was about establishing her own worth in a world that seemed intent on undermining it. What it truly meant to stand up for herself now danced on the precipice of change. In the fabric of the ongoing wedding, she could hear the faint murmurs of family gossip gliding through the air, whispering secrets about her. That got her thinking she could easily become a topic of discussion after her confrontation with Patricia. Would that shift be worth it? She had to believe in her right to exist beyond their judgments. Are you sure about this? Jake's voice broke through her simmering thoughts, grounding her. Yes, she replied, her tone firm as she searched his eyes for reassurance. I can't back down, not now. His concern illuminated the depth of his care for her, yet she sensed the frailty of his resolve. We both have to be ready for the fallout. I can't be the only one to bear the burden. He drew a deep breath, pulling his shoulders back resolutely before nodding. Then let us go. I'll be there, whatever happens. With a shared glance of understanding, they moved together toward a quiet corner of the venue, searching for Patricia's familiar figure. The swirling party was far away now, and as they retreated into the shadows, the solemnity of the impending confrontation loomed large. Emily's stomach churned as she recalled every dismissive remark Patricia had ever made, each one a thorn against her self-confidence. The image of Jake's mother hovering over the relationship pressed weight upon her. Determined to shatter that lingering doubt, she focused on all she had achieved in her own right: her career aspirations, her friendships, the person she had become. When they finally spotted Patricia, still mingling with family and friends, Emily felt a clenching in her gut. She needed clarity. Listen, I have to set the tone here. I won't let her dictate my self-worth anymore, she said softly to Jake, her resolve hardening into something tangible. Jake squeezed her hand, an anchor against the tide of her trepidation. As they approached, the crowded room fell away, the world narrowing down to just her and the woman who held so much power over her life. Patricia, Emily called out, her voice ringing with a steadiness she was desperate to maintain. The older woman turned, her expression shifting as surprise replaced the previous cheerfulness. Emily, Patricia greeted, the coolness in her tone a stark contrast to the warmth she showed others. How nice to see you. The polite veneer, though unwelcoming, now served as a beacon of motivation. Clouded by years of disapproval, Emily grasped the moment for what it was: a chance to demonstrate her truth. I would actually like to talk to you about something important, she said, forcing back the tremor in her voice. I think it's time we had an honest conversation. As Patricia raised an eyebrow, a wave of uncertainty washed over Jake, but Emily stood firm. For the first time, she felt not just the momentous weight of her feelings but also a burgeoning sense of liberation. But with that sense of empowerment came the realization that confronting Patricia might unleash the full force of her expectations. What if this conversation led to a rift, perhaps even an ultimatum? Was she prepared to face the repercussions? In that charged atmosphere, with curiosity ignited in Patricia's eyes, Emily braced for the waves of confrontation that were sure to follow. This was a moment she couldn't retreat from. Let us address the elephant in the room, she declared, steeling herself as Patricia became her singular focus. Only time would tell what awaited beyond this moment, but Emily knew that her truth was just waiting to be voiced. The outcome of this confrontation held the potential to redefine everything. Would her honesty lead to understanding, or would it ignite further conflict? Only one thing was certain: she was prepared to confront whatever followed. As the words hung in the air, Emily felt time dilate. She locked eyes with Patricia, searching for any sign of recognition in the older woman's icy demeanor, but found only a disapproving glare that had sparked too often in the past. Emily, Patricia finally said, her voice dripping with condescension. What is there to discuss? You've always been a bright spot in our family, but I wonder about your true intentions. A sharp intake of breath almost stole Emily's voice. This was the very essence of her torment, projecting an image that undermined her dignity. Instead of cowering under the weight of those accusations, though, a fire ignited. I'm not a gold digger, Patricia. The words erupted before she could muzzle the surge of urgency. I've worked hard for everything I have and I am deserving of respect, just like everyone else in this room. Jake instinctively stepped closer, a shield and a support, yet even studying Patricia's reaction, he seemed to be processing a different journey, a reckoning in the complexities of family loyalty versus love. The tension in the air crackled, undulating between them like electricity. Patricia's mask cracked ever so slightly, a flicker of annoyance crossing her features. Hard work? You mean your little projects and art shows? That dismissal stung deeply, like a rusty nail digging into her self-worth. Hefting that weight became impossible to ignore. My work matters to me, as it should. It's about passion, something you might be able to relate to if you opened your heart just a fraction. I'm not a failure, and I refuse to let you cast me as one. Patricia's surprise gave way to anger, her eyes narrowing. It was at this moment that Emily realized she could pivot the narrative. What if this confrontation became less about defending her passion and more about standing up against judgment? You carry a sort of expectation, and I'm done being your target. Her voice steadied. It's never been about your approval for me. I care for Jake and that's what matters. The words hung in the fragile silence, a decree against the years of stewing resentment. Jake's presence felt both solid and uncertain. He was caught between two women he cared about, but Emily could see admiration flicker in his eyes. Patricia's expression morphed, battling between disbelief and something unrecognizable vulnerability, perhaps? You think you can confront me without repercussions? This family has traditions and standards. I'm afraid you don't fit. Maybe this family could benefit from understanding that fitting in comes with compromise and evolution, Emily countered, her breath catching as an unexpected surge of confidence surged through her veins. Tradition can be restrictive. I'm not here to uphold ideals designed long before I existed. As the silence stretched, she felt the gravity of both women's histories colliding. Emily was more than just a point of contention, she was an embodiment of growth and tenacity. It occurred to her that while Patricia's past loomed large, the future was governed by choices, challenges, and transformation, something she was committed to navigating. The moment hung delicately. She sensed a shift, perhaps Patricia's defenses were crumbling under the weight of Emily's truth. Perhaps even a glimmer of respect was reflected in Patricia's narrowing green eyes. Then, just as another wave of hope began to swell within her, Patricia stepped back slightly, a powerful matriarch retreating to reassess her daughter-in-law's resolve. This isn't over, Emily, she warned, the challenge lingering in her words. Emily nodded, feeling a silent pact weave between them. She would not yield, nor would she be defined only by others. Behind her, she sensed the quiet strength of Jake growing in tandem with her own, an unspoken promise that he would walk this path alongside her. She turned to him, their hands still linked as they exchanged a knowing look laden with unvoiced fears and also shared courage. Are you ready? He asked softly, his brow furrowed with uncertainty yet glinting with belief. With rejuvenated resolve, Emily responded, more than ever. But as she prepared to pursue the fraught path ahead with Jake, she suddenly spotted Patricia's expression. For the first time, a single thought loomed ever larger in her mind, a thought about identity and belonging. What was she truly prepared to sacrifice to break free of the chains woven by someone else's expectations? Unsettled yet invigorated, Emily turned back sharply. Let us talk about which of our values truly matter from here on out. Unbeknownst to her, those words held the potential to unleash conversations and conflicts she had not yet even considered. Would walking this tightrope lead her to the self-definition she sought, or unravel everything she thought she knew about herself? She would find out soon enough. Emily's heart raced as she faced the dual roles of challenger and changemaker, nestled in the turbulent atmosphere that Patricia had orchestrated. Her fingers tightened around Jake's, grounding herself in the reality of him at her side. Perhaps they'd just crossed a formidable threshold together, one that heralded a dramatic shift within her, and she refused to retreat now. Values, Patricia, she began, her voice steady despite the quaking uncertainty within. What we hold dear should shape our actions, and what better place to start than right here? Patricia scoffed, the edge of her disdain sharp as ever. And what values would you impose upon this family? With each mocking word, Emily found her own sense of clarity sharpening. Understanding, growth, the courage to explore new perspectives. You believe your values matter? This family has decorum, tradition. Each syllable emerged tinged with disbelief. And perhaps those traditions stifle our potential, Emily interjected, passionately. I refuse to be a pawn in your game of family hierarchy. My art and my ambition reflect my journey, my hard work. There was a pause, brief yet pregnant with significance, as the weight of her words hung in the air like an unshielded truth. Jake's hand squeezed hers gently, an affirmation that she wasn't alone in her fight. The solidarity ignited something deep within Emily, a burgeoning resolve that started to overflow and disarm the weighty atmosphere. Let us not confuse your arrogance for standards, Patricia, Emily continued, feeling the electric charge rise within her. No one has to sacrifice their authenticity for your satisfaction. Across the fray, she noticed a crack forming in Patricia's steely facade. It was a nuance so subtle yet profound, perhaps she was now forced to engage with discomfort at being challenged. But would Patricia reflect on it? Authenticity is revealed in heritage and responsibility, Patricia replied, her voice still edged but lacking the previous certainty. Maybe authenticity also involves taking a leap of faith into authenticity itself, the audacity to redefine what it means to belong, Emily countered, emboldened by the possibility of transformative change. I want to share our lives with truth, not a carefully crafted image of obedience. Patricia's cold silence felt as maddening as it was enlightening. This moment was a pivotal point, Emily could see it as a potential fork in the road for both herself and Patricia. If she could break free from their mutual past tethered by expectations, she could lead a life rich in her own values instead. Tradition is important, but so is evolution, Emily asserted, her conviction growing. I'm fighting for my growth, for my definition of worth, that's not a crime. That's called flourishing in life. Turning to Jake, she found him absorbing her words, a reflection of admiration dawning in his eyes. It felt liberating. Perhaps he was beginning to see her for all she was and could become. But then, a flicker of hesitation surged through her. Did she truly believe her resolve alone could influence Patricia? Had she underestimated the depth of those familial chains? I want you to recognize my ambition doesn't diminish your legacy, Emily finally said, taking a deep breath before lowering her voice. I need you to meet me halfway. Can you do that? The challenge stood unyielding in the air, and Emily knew it would require every ounce of courage they both possessed to bridge the chasm between them. She wasn't simply fighting for acceptance anymore. Now, the stakes had evolved, she was fighting to assert herself as an equal player in a family dynamic that had long stifled her spirit. Patricia's expression flickered again, this time, a mingling of confusion with the slightest glimmer of something that suggested she was processing the possibility of change. If I choose to meet you halfway, Patricia finally responded, her voice low, what will you do with it? That question lingered like a solemn accord, presenting Emily not just with an opportunity but a demand for definitive action. She was standing at the precipice of her own evolution and must ground her answers in authenticity, thus solidifying her own values moving forward. The air thickened, and anticipation crackled. At that moment, Emily recognized her path would not just shape her relationships but redefine the very essence of who she was. What she could not foresee was the repercussions of her next decision, the ripple it might set into motion. Would her leap towards embracing authenticity sever ties, or might it forge a new legacy that would echo through the family for generations? She took her time, then spoke, I promised to cultivate a shared understanding. But would she mean it when the pressure escalated? Emily felt a strange thrill connected to both fear and empowerment. As she held Patricia's gaze, she realized that this confrontation could truly reveal more than just values, it could illuminate the future of their family if they dared face it together. And behind her newfound courage, a whisper stretched into silence, a question that felt almost tangible. Could Emily truly be brave enough to embrace the messy reality of transformation, not only for herself but for everyone entwined in her story? The unrelenting silence hung over the room, a tangible anticipation that threatened to suffocate. Emily's words etched into the atmosphere like a secret promise, demanding contemplation. Her heart thudded in her chest, both alive and panicked at the prospect of action. If Patricia was willing to meet her halfway, what did that truly mean for their future and for her own? The flicker of hesitation that shimmered in Patricia's blue eyes started to embolden Emily's resolve. This wasn't just about her fight for personal autonomy, it was a shared journey into the unknown, intertwined destiny beckoning them closer to greater understanding. Yet, as she stood amidst the tension, a tinge of doubt crept in. Would she be equipped for the challenges ahead? The prospect of actual change had always struck her as daunting, like staring down the barrel of a cannon. It could either be catastrophic or catapult her into unimagined freedom. Emily willed herself to breathe. She couldn't allow fear to skew her intentions, validation couldn't come solely from Patricia's approval. Rather, it had to stem from her unrelenting drive towards a vision of what family could become, not weighed down by obligation, but lifted by authenticity. Patricia, she ventured tentatively, perhaps instead of meeting halfway, we could embark on a path together, a mutual investment in discovering who we are beyond our identities as daughter or mother. There's room for all of us to thrive. An unexpected flicker of recognition crossed Patricia's face. It was fleeting but significant, causing a surge of exhilaration within Emily. Could this be the truly pivotal moment she had sought after all these years? Jake shifted beside her, his presence a constant, reassuring buoy. The subtle energy radiating from him ignited a spark of courage that pushed aside any remaining uncertainty. If we're redefining what it means to belong, Emily declared, the weight of her words filling the air, then let us confront the fears each of us harbors about shifting our perspectives. What are you afraid of, Patricia? The question hung bitterly, challenging the very core of Patricia's ingrained beliefs. Emily could see the tension ripple through her body, a physical manifestation of internal conflict as she pondered the layers of her persona. Did she recognize the emotional cage she had built around herself? Patricia's lips squeezed into a taut line, hinting at turmoil boiling beneath. Fear? She finally scoffed, but Emily sensed the unsteadiness beneath the defiance. She took it as a cue, a chance to dig deeper. Yes, fear. The unease in stepping into an unknown that threatens to undermine everything we've built. I, too, have faced that discomfort, and I'm still learning to embrace it. We can transform our stories into something greater together. Each rejection of traditional norms cast away the veils they had both worn. It was a daunting proposition, and the freedom that came with it rang profoundly. But could they withstand the tumult of redefining a family culture long shrouded in surface-level decorum? Emily could feel the battle lines drawn around this fraught conversation, a precursor to a storm brewing just below the surface. But the rush of adrenaline and purpose illuminated a path carved by vulnerability and honesty. They had the power to reshape their connection through courageous discourse. As Patricia's brow knitted together, the weight of her consideration shattered any lingering distance between them. You may be right, she hesitated, uncertainty threading through her voice. This acknowledgement resonated like music, filling the cracks of long-held animosities and misunderstandings. Emily blinked, caught off guard. Was Patricia, the ironclad matriarch, truly open to transformation? Perhaps it's worth exploring what scares us, even if it leads us down paths we never anticipated, Emily urged, her heart thrumming with fierce determination. The very essence of her journey was rising above past patterns. In that instant, hope flickered within Emily, a chance for dynamic change that could rewrite not only their narrative but many generations to come. But doubts loomed. Their transfusion of values required complete commitment. Would Patricia dare to dive into the depths of vulnerability with her, or was this an ephemeral moment destined to drift back into routine expectations? As she held her breath in anticipation, Emily silently vowed to stand firm, no matter the outcome. The stakes were irrevocably high, their dynamics threatened to fracture or blossom into something astounding. Can we begin this journey, then? Emily invited with sincerity, offering a tentative belief in their potential. But as Patricia remained silent, the daunting weight of their past clashed with the promise of their future, leaving Emily to wonder, would this confrontation drive them apart, or would it foster an uncharted connection that defied everything they once knew? The raging question lingered, waiting for an answer in the fields of possibilities that lay ahead. The room remained thick with tension, the unsaid words swirling between them like an invisible storm. Emily's heart raced as she met Patricia's gaze, the silence stretching unbearably. Every second dragged, each heartbeat echoing the gravity of what was about to unfold. Patricia's lips parted slightly, as if the whirlwind of emotions and thoughts was breaking free, yet her hesitance remained. Emily felt a swell of determination. She had stepped into the ring, and retreating now would mean defaulting on the promise of transformation they could forge together. But what would it take to truly open Patricia's heart? Would it demand more than merely questioning each other's fears? What are you really afraid of, Patricia? She pressed gently but firmly, daring to probe deeper. What if you allowed yourself the vulnerability of a different kind of relationship? What if we allowed joy in? Patricia stiffened, her face a mask of conflicted emotions. Emily sensed Patricia's internal struggle. This was a woman entrenched in the tight grip of fear cultivated over years, and the mere suggestion of joy felt like a radical act. "I built a life on stability and expectations," Patricia finally confessed, her tone brittle. "What you're asking is not just uncomfortable, it feels like letting go of everything I know." Something inside Emily stirred. Patricia had articulated the very roots of her own fear. Stability had always felt like a double-edged sword, providing comfort only to become an anchor, weighing them down. But perhaps therein lay the seed of mutual understanding. "Stability can become a prison if it isn't rooted in who we truly are," Emily replied, her voice steadier now, fueled by a wellspring of vulnerability. "I don't want you to let go of what you love. I want us to find a version of ourselves that can thrive even if that means tearing down old walls first." Emily could see the flickers of recognition dance in Patricia's eyes, the questioning shadows that hinted at unarticulated desires. Perhaps she wanted more connection, more authentic family dynamics, but was simply too afraid to voice it. As the weight of their conversation filled the air, Emily shifted her approach. "What if, instead of seeing this as a disruption, we chose to view it as an exploration? A chance to redefine the essence of our relationship?" The room seemed to expand with possibilities, the previously stagnant air now shimmering with potential. Emily took a step closer, leaning into the moment. "We could create a new foundation based on honesty and vulnerability instead of mere obligation and tradition." Patricia's brow furrowed, wrestling with the seductive pull of such radical change. Emily could almost see the wheels turning, the remnants of old beliefs battling against the allure of new ones. "But what if it fails?" Patricia finally voiced, vulnerability trembling just beneath the surface. The question struck hard, reverberating through the chamber as layers of fear unfurled before them. It felt like standing on the precipice of a skyscraper, both exhilarating and terrifying. "If we never take that leap," Emily countered, "what remains? A lifetime of the same unfulfilling cycle? I would rather risk it all for a shot at something real between us." A silence descended again, but this time it felt different. Their fraught exchange had forged a deeper connection, stripping away preconceptions, inviting uncertainty while still tethering them to a potential future blossoming with growth. Emily dared to hope that the flicker of acceptance she saw in Patricia's eyes was a guiding light towards a new chapter, a move towards shared truths, however frightening they might be. Yet, despite this stirring sense of possibility, the formidable challenge of actualizing their intentions loomed large. Emily turned the question over in her mind: could she help guide Patricia towards embracing the unknown? As she waited for a response, she could feel the tension of uncharted potential pressing against her. What awaited them on the path of discovery? Would those intimate fears emerge as anchors or as wings to elevate them to new heights? She took a deep breath, daring to believe. If we take this step forward, together, what is the worst that could happen? But as Patricia shifted her gaze to the floor, a veil of uncertainty cloaked the room once more. The crucial moment hung suspended, fraught with unvoiced emotions, leaving Emily to wonder, was this just the beginning of their transformation or the reinforcement of why they clung to the way things had always been? The tension that electrified the atmosphere melted slowly as Emily held Patricia's gaze. The silence, punctuated by Elizabethan anxiety, began to feel less like a crossroads and more like a cauldron of potential. Emily's heart surged with a belief in change that burned brighter than the shadows of doubt looming within the family dynamic. "Patricia," Emily began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion, "this is a chance for us to redefine our relationship. Yes, it's terrifying, but think of what we might gain. Real, authentic connection." Patricia, still stalwart, shifted her weight slightly, pondering the profound shift Emily was proposing. "But it means rethinking everything." "Yes," Emily affirmed, emboldened by the prospect of vulnerability. "It means letting go of the past to create a bond steeped in honesty instead of obligation." The words seemed to dangle in the air between them, delicate as gossamer threads, waiting to see whether Patricia would grasp hold of them. Emily felt Jake's reassuring hand squeeze hers, a silent vow of support echoing between them. Together, they stood at the edge of transformation. Despite the uncertainty in Patricia's gaze, an ember of something new flickered. Was it desire? Hope? Why should I risk my way of life, my principles? Patricia inquired, her tone a mixture of reluctance and intrigue. Because sometimes the principles we cherish become chains, Emily replied, her heart pounding as she approached the precipice of the unknown. What if I told you that stepping into this new territory could unravel walls we've built and ignite a deeper understanding? Jake took a breath, sensing Emily carve out a piece of courage that had long been dormant in him as well. For so long, he had straddled the line between loyalty to his mother and his love for Emily, but now he felt a vast shift in his allegiance, a commitment to growth rather than mere survival. Patricia stood before them, arms crossed tightly as she analyzed the profound implications. The room's energy shifted, brewing with the promise of possibilities. The voices from inside the celebration faded into the background, underscored by the solemnity of the moment as three lives hung in the balance, ready to redefine themselves. Then what do we do? Patricia finally asked, the steel in her spine wavering just slightly. Emily saw the window open, just a crack, a doorway beckoning. Let us share our stories, our fears, our aspirations, and what we want from this family. Let us heal rather than avoid. We can build a family legacy not confined to tradition but also grounded in respect and mutual understanding. Patricia's demeanor softened, an acknowledgement of insight rising in her heart. As they stood, unanchored from entrenched ideals, the first strands of an emotional tapestry began to weave a new narrative. The faint echoes of laughter from the wedding seeped back into the edges of their awareness, a reminder of the joy that had initially sparked this connection even amidst chaos. Emily turned to Jake. I believe we can do this if we tackle it together. It's the only way to embrace the love we want and need. He nodded, eyes glistening with understanding. I stand with both of you, hoping for a future that transcends our past. Patricia inhaled sharply, a flicker of realization shining through. If we're going to embark on this, we need rules, boundaries of honesty, respect, and rebirth. Can we truly commit to that? Emily felt an exhilarating rush. This was the shift they all needed. Yes, I commit to tackling those rules openly and honorably. Let us lay the groundwork for a new legacy. The sincerity in Patricia's expression began to blossom as they spoke on, each idea exchanged fostering a deeper intimacy. In that moment, Emily began to cast aside the chains of the past, realizing that she was finally stepping into her power, not defined by what others thought, but through authentic transformation. Moments later, as they drafted their plans together, their collective stories began interweaving like roots of a young tree. At last, they were taking steps to redefine their connection, to embody tenacity intertwined with love rather than obligation. Days passed, and the transformation took root. As Patricia started challenging herself to dismantle perceptions that limited her vision, she began to appreciate the tenacity Emily carried, recognizing the honor in not having to choose between identity and belonging. Through the shared trials, they found common ground, igniting recognition as they sought out aspects of passion and dreams. Commitment blossomed, leading to new traditions that embraced transparency and growth. Ultimately, Emily emerged with a newfound confidence. The weight of Patricia's harsh words had not only lost its sting but had fueled a transformation into the most authentic version of herself. She stepped away from the remnants of doubt and embraced the whole of her being, carving her name boldly into the fabric of her family. She was no longer defined by judgments but by her resilience and courage to confront. And as they came together time and again, Emily proved her worth through her unstoppable drive. She evolved, conquered barriers, and realized her dreams as a nursing professional, gaining recognition from her peers and mentors alike. At last, recognition came when she was awarded a prestigious fellowship in her field, validating not just her hard work but solidifying her identity as a competent, capable woman. The accolades echoed through her heart, a testament to the tenacity she had cultivated. It was here that Emily stood in front of her friends and family, no longer an echo of Patricia's past expectations, but a testament to growth and change. Her triumph wasn't merely in her accomplishments but in the familial bonds forged anew. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, illuminating the sky with brilliant hues of orange and pink, it marked a new dawn in their family, a legacy rooted in understanding and mutual respect. Emily Walker had not just transformed her own identity, she had influenced the very culture of the family around her. Her journey was one of reclamation, proving to herself and others that they could rise above adversity to create extraordinary narratives. And in that moment, she smiled, truly proud what she had once deemed impossible was not only possible but rich in promise. Standing arm in arm with Jake and Patricia, she felt at home among the love they had forged into something beautiful and transformative. The complexities they had navigated had brought remarkable growth that none could deny. Emily had embraced her true self while forever etching courage into the hearts of those around her. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm seriously, it makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and theories about Emily's incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusive tale of personal overcoming. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.